And minasan ohayo gozaimasu. And happy Valentine's Day. Yes, it's Bobby Valentine. And I'm with young Frankie Ramppen, and we are going to do the Bobby Valentine to Hanashima Show. Huh? Every week on Monday, Frankie and I on YouTube and on many of the other podcast channels, we will be talking about the Japanese players who are in the MLB, and we'll be presenting it to our Japanese audience. All of our fans and our friends in Japan can hear what we are thinking, this old guy and that young guy. And you're wondering, of course, who is that young guy and why am I wearing steel? Well, Steel is my new team. It's Steel Sports. And we will talk about that many times during our sessions. But right now, I want to introduce my co-host. It's Frankie Ramppen the Fourth. Yeah, not that Frank Ramppen, coachy, who was my bench coach and first base coach in Japan for 6 years, who won Gold Glove titles with his infielders, but his son, his oldest son, Frankie. Frankie, welcome to the show of Hanashima Show.
Well, Bobby, it's great to be here. Very excited to do this show with you. And looking back at my time in Japan when I was just a little kid, my first time going over there, I was just 2 years old in 2004. So some of my first memories of my life are in Japan. I think maybe the first memory I ever had is learning how to ride a bike over there. So a lot of connection with me over there. I was going to those games every single day, grew up loving baseball, loving the Marines, and just have never lost that love since.
And now at 23 years old, on Valentine's Day, if you were in Japan, Frankie, there would be girls all over the place giving you chocolates. How would that be?
Oh, that would be very fun. Not how Valentine's Day works in America, though. So had to go over to Forever Sweet Bakery, see my guy Sky Mercedes, and got myself a pack of cupcakes for today. So excited to try these out on this happy Valentine's Day. Great time. Let's get it going.
Well, thanks, Frankie. Great to be with you and happy Valentine's Day. Yes, spring training in Japan and in MLB has begun. All the pitchers and catchers are now in their camps, and we have a lot to talk about. But probably one of the first things that needs to be talked about is Ichiban no Senshun, the number one player from Japan to come to the States and the first Japanese-born player to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in the U.S., the great Suzuki Ichiro.
Ichiro Suzuki, one of the greatest, if not the greatest Japanese player in the history of the sport. Unbelievable. Had over 1,000 hits in Japan, 1,200, and then came over here and was the 30th member of the 3,000 hit club. Over 4,000 hits in total. To be exact, 4,367 total hits if you combine Japan and the United States, and that is over 100 more than the hit leader, Pete Rose.
That makes him number one on the hit list, and I am honored to be an ambassador for the Cooperstown Hall of Fame for the new exhibit that they will have in Cooperstown, which will display all the relationships that the U.S. and Japanese baseball have had over the years. Yes, talking about the great Osan and Nakashima-san, all the way through the players of today, and how baseball has really helped the relationships between the two countries. I'm honored to be an ambassador for the Hall of Fame. I will be honored to be in Cooperstown when Ichiro gets inducted in July of this year. And I'm also going to be excited to be in Japan for the Dodgers-Cubs series to begin this Major League season, which happens to be 20 years since we had a parade in Chiba in 2005, when you were just a very young boy, Frankie, and the Chiba Lotte Marines won that championship of all championships in 2005.
Yeah, I remember being just a little kid being behind the rope when you guys were doing the champagne celebration. I was getting hit with stuff. It was an unbelievable time. Just as a little kid, that probably is why I still have such a burning desire and love for the game of baseball.
Yeah, what's really cool, there was a little champagne, but in Japan, our favorite number was 26 because I designated the fans as the 26th man on our roster. And what we did is celebrated the fans as well as the championship with that celebration by having 2,600 bottles of beer that we didn't get to drink, but we sure did have fun celebrating with. What a great memory that was, and what a great memory I have of 1995 when I first went to Japan to manage, and Ichiro was just a young player after finishing his first batting title playing for the Oryx Blue Wave. And when I think about the wonderful times that I had rooting for Ichiro, and then the sadness that I had when the New York Mets, with me as a manager, did not get the bid when Ichiro became a free agent. Oh, if Steel Sports was around then, we could have influenced the entire situation and Ichiro would have been a Met. But no, he went to the Seattle Mariners, and I never had the honor of managing him. But I did have the honor of having the same glove maker as he had. And I'd like to honor the great Sabota-san, who in 1978 came to America with a couple other craftsmen from Japan and a guy named Jim Darby, who was representing the Mizuno sporting goods company. And they went around to different spring training camps to introduce the Mizuno product to Major League Baseball players. Sabota-san became a very good friend of mine. He was a craftsman in 1978. He elevated by the time Ichiro was retiring to be the vice president of Mizuno. And he only made gloves for Matsui and Ichiro at the end of his career, except for one. He made one glove for me, and it was a replica of what Ichiro used. Frankie, you have it at your home because a lot of my memorabilia is with your dad, your mom, your brother, and you in your home in Connecticut, because now I'm living in California and I left a lot of my stuff in Connecticut until I returned. But do you have that glove?
I do, right here.
Well, that's the first glove that Sabota-san made for me in 1978. I was the first to wear it in a major league game. I was honored to do that. It's really cool. It's still in usable shape.
Oh, yeah. This thing is great. This thing's ready to go right now.
Yeah, it could go. It's a shortstop's glove.
Oh, yeah.
It's really cool. He was the best glove maker in the world. And then he presented me later with the final glove that he made in the Ichiro collection. And you also have that glove. Yeah, and that's just such an honor that I have, with my name on it, an Ichiro model glove that was made by the great craftsman from Mizuno, the great sporting goods company of the world. And I have great memories thinking about that. Thanks for doing that, Frankie, and keep it safe, will you?
Oh,
you can't use that one in a game. No. Even though you're a great center fielder, Frankie, when you played, you just used the glove on the other hand, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And speaking of the memorabilia you left behind here, all this great stuff behind me, this picture of Sada Haraho, the all-time home run leader in the world, not just in the Nippon League, in the world, 868 home runs in his career right here. Mike Piazza, imagine if him and Ichiro teamed up when you were the manager of the Mets. That would have been something. And mentioned Pete Rose before, Ichiro took down his all-time world hit record.
Well, I'm glad you have those places in a place of honor, and they're part of our YouTube now. And every Monday, Steel Sports will present a show like this on YouTube and in all the podcast venues around the world. So hopefully we're going to reach a lot of people and hopefully talk about not only the current induction, but also maybe some of the future inductions of Japanese players into the U.S. Cooperstown Hall of Fame. Who else is on our topic to talk about today, Frankie?
So let's talk about probably the most highly touted Japanese pitching prospect over the past couple of years. There's been a few, but this year, Roki Sasaki is going to make his debut in America, signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers continue their wild spending spree, have the best roster in baseball as of right now, and continue to add with the right-handed fireballer, Roki Sasaki.
Yeah, a real talent coming from the Chiba Lotte Marines in the footsteps of another great pitcher who came from Chiba, the great late Irabu, and also, of course, Komiyama-san, who also played for Chiba and played in the MLB. But this guy has electric stuff, as they say. Already, many people in America are questioning his stature, whether or not he's going to be strong enough and whether or not his body is mature enough to pitch during this long MLB 162 game plus season. And I say plus because he's playing for the greatest team maybe ever assembled in America, the LA Dodgers, and he's going to have a lot of very good company there also.
And Sasaki, his electric stuff showed over in Japan. He threw a 19 strikeout perfect game when he pitched for the Marines over there. That included a stretch of 13 strikeouts in a row, the all-time record for the Nippon League. And this guy, he's 23 years old. I mean, you talked about it a little bit earlier. I am 23 as well. Imagine if I was going over to the Nippon League to go be arguably the biggest new prospect, new star coming into the league at age of 23. I don't know how I would handle that. New culture, new language, everything different over there. I've been over there. I've seen how much different it is. Going over there to be the new guy, the new star of the team or star of the country could be an interesting situation for Sasaki. Let's see how he responds to that added pressure.
Well, it won't be easy. It's not easy if you're a mature player, and he's a young player who has to adjust to, as you mentioned, the food. Where does he get his rice? And luckily, he's going to be with two veterans on his team from Japan who will help him understand what restaurants to go to and what the routine is. But it's still going to be different. The amount of interviews that he will do, the new information that he's going to get before games, how to pitch to hitters, his new coaching staff, his new teammates. And being a good teammate is one of the major things that Steel Sports always talks about. And that's going to be a challenge for the people around him because he's going to be different. And also for him, because acclimating yourself just to the locker room where you dress, it's different than in Chiba. The press room where you give your interviews, the private jets, the charter jets that you travel in, the different stadiums that he's going to go into, the different cities that he's going to be in are all going to be a spectacular learning experience. And while he's doing that, he's going to be asked to pitch at the highest level. I think it's a very difficult task, but I think he's mentally ready. I hope he's also physically ready to do it.
Yeah, Sasaki, hopefully Ohtani and Yamamoto will be able to help him out, the two Japanese influences that are already on the team. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a big learning curve, a big adjustment to just living in America as the culture. He's only 23. I don't know if he's ever even been to the United States before. And you mentioned the traveling, right? These road trips are much, much farther than what they would be in Japan. Cross country, like when the Dodgers go over the East Coast to go play the Yankees, go play the Marlins or something like that. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles those long flights that don't really happen in Japan.
And time zones. There's only one time zone in Japan, and here there's 3 time zones. So you'll leave New York and come back, and it'll only be 2 hours later, even though you're on the plane for 5 hours. And then you'll travel from West Coast to East Coast, and you'll leave at 10 in the morning, and you'll get there in the evening. So it's a really weird adjustment to travel and time. And he's going to have help. but it's going to be difficult and it's going to be a learning curve. I think he's going to be spectacular at times when he's on the mound. I think his forkball, his fastball, his breaking ball are all going to dominate some major league hitters. But making all of those adjustments is as big a challenge as getting major league hitters out.
And another quick point that I want to bring up that I was actually talking about with my dad, because he has the experience just like you did with being in the dugout in Japan in the Nippon League, and the way that they treat the dugout, the way that they respect the dugout, the way that they clean up after themselves and everything. Like even in the streets of Japan, just walking through the city, there's really no garbage cans. You clean up after yourself. You are respectful. You don't leave your garbage around. In the US, in those dugouts, those things become a mess. And my dad did mention that Ichiro, when he first came over here, didn't love that so much. And maybe the Mariners changed that a little bit. So we'll see how Sasaki handles that as well.
Oh yeah, it's a place to respect. The field should be respected, and the dugout, the place that you go to work every day, your office, should also be shown respect. And a lot of players that play in the MLB will drink their bottle of water or cup of water and throw it on the floor of the dugout, or be chewing some gum or something and throw it on the field that they're playing on, and that doesn't sit well with someone who's brought up in the Japanese baseball culture. And everyone that I'm talking to in Japan understands that. But what you must understand is it'll be different for him, and maybe even at times uncomfortable for him to see these things happen.
And another thing, hopefully they do have they did say, the Dodgers said that they are going to have a 6-man rotation, same way that they have it.
7, Frankie. They might have 7 with all the pitchers they have.
True.
And of course, that's good for him. It's good for Ohtani coming back, that we'll talk about, from his second elbow operation, and Yamamoto, of course, coming back from his shoulder situation. And the other starting members of the Dodgers are coming back, including the future Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw, who are all coming back from kind of injuries that they need to perform at the highest level with. And so the longer time in between starts, considering the Dodgers will have a longer season because they will be in the playoffs, I think will be beneficial to all.
For sure. So let's talk about one of those things you mentioned there, Ohtani, and how that pitching staff last year was pretty detrimented. So Ohtani coming back from his second Tommy John surgery. The only players that I know of recently that have done that, Jacob deGrom, Shane McClanahan, Walker Buehler, a few guys to talk about. But now, this year, Ohtani is eyeing a May return to the rotation. So him in May will be healthy, and Jacob deGrom will be healthy as well this year. Both guys coming off of 2 Tommy John surgeries. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. How do you think Ohtani is going to deal with that coming off that second Tommy John surgery?
Yeah, and you mentioned Buehler too, who was a Dodger, who no longer is a Dodger. It's going to be interesting to follow these 3 players. And one of the keys to coming back and performing properly is how you rehab, how seriously you take the workouts that need to be a daily situation to throw the ball with the force that Ohtani throws it and these others throw it. He's a genius. He's as great a player as I've ever seen at the plate, on the bases, and on the mound. And he's also one of the greatest, along with Ichiro and many Japanese players from the MPB, are more disciplined in their workout, that they understand that the little things mean a lot. And I believe that Ohtani will come back as a better pitcher than he was when he left. I think he'll be have a little experience under his belt, a little more obviously, but also after this rehab will understand his body even better than he understood it before. Now, the one little thing that Ohtani is dealing with is that he's married this year, and his wife is expecting a child, which could be a distraction. I don't think it will be because, as I said, he's a genius. He has laser focus on what he needs to do to perform at the highest level. But any little distraction could become a situation. And so it'll be interesting to follow him and Bueller and DeGrom, who are all coming back from their second, not first, but second elbow operation, and see how they progress during the season.
And obviously, for the inaugural episode of this, I had to bring out the Ohtani jersey, the Team Japan Ohtani jersey. Had to bring that one out. But another thing that you have brought up multiple times when talking about Ohtani is that he recovers better than anybody you've ever seen. That guy gets on a bus, gets on the plane, he's out like a light, he's recovering, he's already in REM sleep immediately. How do you think that's
how he does it? The players that played with him and the people around him with the Angels marveled at the fact that he can throw 100 pitches. He could get 3 home runs in a game. He could run around the bases after working out from the time he wakes up in the morning to the time his job is over. And as soon as the job is over and he gets to a comfortable place, boom, he's out. He sleeps. He sleeps deep. He sleeps long. Again, will a baby keep that sleep from coming? Ooh. I doubt it. I think he could sleep through a hurricane from what I've heard. And this amazing athlete, the best that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot, is going to put up numbers and amaze people once again this year with his hitting. Because he's a year older with his batting and he knows these pitchers even more than he knew them last year. I think that spells trouble for them and with his pitching once he gets back on the mound.
And obviously last season he created his own club, the 50-50 club, hitting 50 homers, stealing 50 bases out of the leadoff spot once Mookie Betts got hurt. Unbelievable. So only one could expect that once he has his baby, he'll just get some more dad strength and hit some more home runs, right?
Well, I think he's going to hit more home runs. I don't know if he's going to steal all those bases, probably because he can, because it's pretty easy for him. And he thinks that stealing the base helps the team win. And he's all about that idea of helping the team win. Integrity is part of his nature. Integrity, again, is part of Steel Sports program. And I think, he's just so much fun to watch. I can't wait. I wish he was on the Angels because I work with the Angels now, and I really enjoyed watching him up close and personal while he was here.
And once he gets back to both pitching and hitting, one can only imagine what new categories, what new records, what new clubs he could create for himself.
Can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. But that's he's probably going to be the number one topic on our show. Today, he wasn't number one. Ichiro became number one, but he really is the main focus. And many of the Dodger fans will understand that the main thing is the main thing, and Ohtani is the main thing.
And there's never been anything like him. He's unbelievable. So let's move on to another new Japanese talent that's making his way over to the major leagues. Tomoyuki Sugano is signed with the Baltimore Orioles, 1 year, $13 million deal. 35 years old. He pitched for 12 seasons with the Yomiuri Giants. 2-time Sawamura Award, that is the Cy Young equivalent in Japan. Won the Triple Crown in 2018. A 3-time MVP of the Central League and actually just came off an MVP season last year. How do you think he's going to do in this Orioles rotation?
Yeah, once again, all the Japanese fans who are watching this understand everything that he's done. And the question is, can he continue? Can he continue in a new country, in a new league, against new players? I think his stuff plays. I'm not sure how many bullets he has left in his arm, if you will. He's pitched an awful lot, and he's pitched at a very high level. I think you're going to see some excellence out of him. Again, the 5-man rotation or 6-man rotation, hopefully in Baltimore, will be something that he adjusts to well. And I hope he adjusts to the soft shell crab too, because he knows, as all the Japanese players who come over know, that eating food is all part of a new culture. And in Baltimore at the Chesapeake Bay during the summer, when those crabs are plentiful and being fished out, it's really a feast. And I think he's going to make a feast of some MLB hitters, but also of a lot of soft shell crab.
Yeah, he actually, during his short time in Baltimore, he went to the restaurant called the Charleston, and they're known for their soft shell crab. And he told the people working, the wait staff, and one of the owners who came to talk to him, said that he's going to definitely make sure he comes back in the summer so he can try that soft shell crab and get himself in the local delicacy.
Yeah, and it's not only a delicacy, but it's an event, folks. So any of you Japanese fans who might be going to Baltimore during the summer, understand you go to these restaurants, they put out brown wrapping paper, if you will, on the tables, and they'll come out with a big pot, a steaming pot of freshly steamed soft shell crab, and throw this pot over and fill the entire table up with 30 or 40 soft shell crab, and you put this big bib on and you dig into the soft shell crab for 2 or 3 hours. Of course, with a cold beer or two, it makes for a spectacular night out of dining.
And just make sure you're not wearing an Ohtani jersey when you're eating that.
Not an expensive one, that's for sure, but you get bibs wherever you go.
Yeah, so Sugano, hopefully he enjoys that soft shell crab once he gets a chance to try that out. And he also does have a little bit of experience facing the American hitters. Did pitch for Team Japan during the 2017 World Baseball Classic semifinals against Team USA at Dodger Stadium, and he only allowed 1 earned run over 6 innings. Team Japan did lose 2-1. That was the year Team USA won the World Baseball Classic, but Sugano did have a good outing against Team USA.
Yeah, this is a spectacular pitcher who is toward the end of his career. I don't think he's at the end of his career. He wants to prove to himself and to others at this stage of his career he could still be effective, and I think he's going to have some outings that are going to be eye-popping. I think he's going to have that 6 1/3 innings with 9 strikeouts, 2 hits, no runs, and people are going to go, wow, he's the real deal, because in fact he is the real deal.
And speaking on that, his strikeout to walk ratio last year when he won MVP of the Central League, 111 strikeouts, 16 walks, so lives in the zone.
Yeah, with really good stuff. So we'll see how he makes the adjustment. I think it's going to be really fun to compare and contrast the old veteran Cy Young Award winner from Japan and the young blossoming superstar from Japan, one on the East Coast of America in Baltimore, one on the West Coast in America in LA, and see how they get through their first MLB season, which will be really challenging, but also very exciting.
Yeah, can't wait to see these guys make their first starts and complete their first seasons in MLB, see how they match up. Very excited for that. So last topic we got here, Shotaro Mori, two-way Japanese star, signed a minor league contract with the the Athletics, just the Athletics now. Sorry, don't know where they're playing or don't know what they're called anymore. But signing just out of high school before ever playing any professional baseball in Japan. And Bobby, we've talked about this. This is a little bit of a sore subject in Japan. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's an interesting situation where for years there was just a handshake agreement between MLB and MPB that the two leagues would not take away the amateurs from their respective countries. So Japan has not come over here and scouted the college players and the high school players who would be the number one draft choices in MLB. They leave that to MLB. And then when the player gets permission from the team, he could then enter the Japanese Professional Baseball League. And MLB usually respects that situation coming from east to west. In this case, you have a high school amateur player who did not enter the draft in MPB because he wanted to be signed by an MLB team. And Oakland, who is that outlier, and you kind of see over Frankie's left shoulder. He's an Oakland fan. That yellow jersey up there is a Raleigh Fingers jersey, I'll bet, or something from the old
Yep,
Oakland
exactly.
game.
Raleigh.
Is that who it is? Yeah.
Yep.
Another guy with a great mustache. That
Got him
guy.
right here.
The Raleigh Fingers uniform. Yeah, and yellow and green. This is a very interesting franchise, that played in a terrible stadium for many years without great fan support because it was such a lousy stadium. They've had a winning tradition at times, but at this time in the franchise history, they have no home to play. They're going to be playing their home games in a minor league stadium in Sacramento, California, which will not be a comfortable environment in the major leagues. I think their minor league teams will be hopefully respected, but will be an Oakland A's minor league team, which means they're not supported as well as many of the other major league teams. So for this young player, it's going to be very, very difficult to play in the minor leagues, to develop in the minor leagues, and to get to the major leagues. And I'm hoping that he's the first and maybe the last amateur that gets signed away from the Nippon Professional Baseball League, because I like to see their players play there so the fans of Japan could see them play for their home teams, for the Japanese teams and the national teams of Japan and the all-star teams of Japan, and keep that great baseball community. And I think Japan has the number one baseball fandom and community in the world. It's the place where the majority of fans and people in the country are baseball fans. They're not hockey and basketball and football and lacrosse, as America has all this diversity of sport. In Japan, they do have good soccer teams now, especially with their women's teams. They do have a little basketball, and of course, they have the great sumo championships in sumo sport. But baseball is still number one, and to keep it number one, they need to have their good players play in Japan. So in this case, I'm wishing him the best. I'll help him any way that I ever can. But I hope in the future that MPB develops their league in such a way that players want to stay there and they want to make a similar salary and play in a similar stadiums. And now you see many stadiums being built anew. In Hokkaido, you've seen that wonderful new structure that Shinjo gets to manage it in. And you see that there's plans for the Giants to build a new stadium. There's a major renovation for the Swallows in Tokyo to renovate their stadium. Chiba Lotte Marines have a plan to build their new stadium. So with these new facilities, I think will come a greater appreciation for the Japanese player to stay in Japan and make their league strong. And I hope that's all in the future.
And you mentioned how much the Japanese love baseball. That was one of the things that that's probably the main number one thing that I took back from my time in Japan, being a part of that crowd every single day. Those people love baseball. They have the cheering section on both sides, home and away fans traveling. They have a song prepared for every single player when they come up to the plate. No walk-up songs. The fans sing their songs. It's an unbelievable atmosphere. And another thing that you talked about, right? The A's, we can say they have the questionable way of doing things, right? And Shotaro Mori going over there. The culture shock we talked about with Roki Sasaki as a 23-year-old is going to be even greater for Mori as an 18-year-old coming over to America.
Yeah, mainly because it's going to be in minor league cities. And many of the minor league cities in America are not great places to be. The hotels aren't first class and the stadiums aren't built out to be the vision that some players have of baseball in America. So that adjustment is going to be very difficult. The bus rides that you have to make and that you have to take, hopefully He'll have a good interpreter who understands the transition that he's making, the acclimation that he needs to make into a new country and a new team. And hopefully his coaches and teammates will understand that he does have unique struggles and will help him through them.
Yeah, hopefully his teammates and the other Japanese players potentially help him stay not as in a state of like, what is going on right now? So hopefully he'll be able to come over with not too much fret, but it's never easy when that happens.
Yeah, life's a learning experience, Frankie. And as you knew as an 18-year-old, as you know as now a 23-year-old, that every day is a new experience and all those days need to be enjoyed. Hopefully all the fans who are out there have enjoyed this little talk about baseball that Frankie Ramppen and Bobby Valentine have had. We're going to do this every week. Our show is sponsored by Steel Sports, which you'll get to know as the year goes on. And we're so excited to give our thoughts, our opinions, and our knowledge to those Japanese baseball fans who love the game so much and want to follow their favorite players here in MLB. And we hope to be able to help them help you follow, because this is Bobby Valentine to Hanashi Show. And so, Frankie, how do you think those cupcakes are going to treat you on Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to break into them right now. These things are looking unbelievable. I'm going to have to open these things up.
Yes.
This thing. Oshi.
All right, on your Oshi, Frankie.
Oh, yeah.
Minasan, hontoni arigatou gozaimashita. Mata aimashou ne.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye-bye.